Elena.
I am so excited that you're here because I am thrilled to get to share you and all of your thriving deliciousness with the world. So, for those of you that are like, what is happening? Why is Elena on here with Kim? Here is what we're doing. I have been getting a lot of questions lately about, so what do you do really? And who is this for? And what does that actually mean? Because you just talk in like words. And so I thought, who better than to talk about what thriving really looks like and means and this journey because it's so individual to everybody, then my really fabulous Thrive Unleashed clients who are just showing up for this work so beautifully. And so I would love to introduce everybody to my beautiful friend, Kim Westrich. Westrich?
Westrich.
Yeah, Westrich. I was like, why did I say that? Thank you. To just learn a little bit more about what thriving means to her and what it looks like. So thank you, Kim, for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share.
I'm so excited for you to be here. So, Kim, would you talk to us about what does thriving mean to you?
Well, what thriving has meant to me has changed over the last year or so. You and I started working on this pretty deliberately about a year ago. And at that time, it was kind of ambiguous to me, vague. I knew that I was in survival mode and that I wanted to get to a place where I was feeling more tranquility and peace and purpose, but it was very unformed. So that's where I was about a year ago. And we've gone through one-on-one coaching, Thrive Circle, a couple of retreats. It's really refined itself a lot. In some ways, I'm still exploring it, but now it's more concrete. Boundaries are very important to me, especially having boundaries at work. That helps me create the space to think a little bit about what feeds my soul. I'm really focused on exploring how to live the width and depth of my life, not just the length, finding the purpose. So right now, thriving to me is making time for things that help me explore that. I recently launched Kim Possibility Health Experiments, which is really exciting to me. It's a way to connect with other people. And one of the big things about that is I don't know what it is. And a year ago, I wouldn't have started something without knowing exactly what it looks like. What are the boundaries? What am I trying to accomplish? Now I have a little bit of an idea, but I'm really building the bridge as I'm walking across it, as opposed to waiting until the bridge is built before I even put a foot on the bridge. So exploring those kinds of opportunities and seeing how they resonate with my purpose is what thriving means to me right now.
I love it. And I love so many things about that. But that, right, that what I hear you saying, tell me where I'm wrong, is that it's been a process and it gets redefined as you go, right? That it's literally building the bridge as you're going, as opposed to thinking about it just as on the other side of the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about that is that once upon a time, you made a visual, right, about what thriving. Do you want to tell people about that?
Sure. So this is when I was still trying to figure out what it meant and very focused on the survival to thrive, getting out of survival, getting into thrive mode. And I found a picture that is basically a Minecraft picture. My son plays a lot of Minecraft. And it had a bridge on it that went over a stream, and there were cherry blossom trees. It was very pretty. And I turned it into a black and white picture and then used some focal color. So one side of the bridge has pink cherry blossoms and green trees, and everything on that side looks very lovely. And the other side is shades of gray and a little bleak. And I actually showed somebody that picture earlier this week. So that picture to me was representing the bridge and getting across the bridge into thrive mode, out of survive mode. And at the time that I created it, you and I talked about how sometimes I would fall off the bridge and drift back to survive. And I was talking about developing a toolkit to get to the other side. The context in which I shared it this week, we were talking a little bit about some of the cycles in life where we get caught up in markets commercial telling us that we're not healthy and things that we need to buy, and we get caught up in trying to achieve things and we think that we're failing. And so the idea was it was sort of like a trap door that you fell off the bridge. And I was thinking about it more in terms of that trap door as opposed to falling off the bridge. But it's the same thing, that you're not going to get across the bridge and live there all the time. We're constantly adjusting and thinking about new ways to get there. So it's a process, like you said.
It is a process. I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you. So you've already, right, talked a little bit about kind of what's changed for you in terms of what you kind of viewed thriving. What is it? And you've mentioned survival mode. Can you share with us what did survival mode look like for you?
Survival mode is, it's very much a feeling of overwhelm where I just feel like there's so many demands on me from work, from my family, from life, and I get caught up in these stories in my head that are very much characterized by scarcity. There is not enough time. I'm not enough. And survival mode is just trying to get from, one task to the other, the beginning of the day to the end of the day. And it's a really bleak way to live because it's not intentional, it's not purposeful, and the messages that are popping around in my brain are very much there's not enough, there's not enough, there's not enough, you're not doing enough, you can't do enough.
Yeah. So what do you think on this journey? Because you've said you've had different access points to this journey, right? The one-on-one, the Thrive Circle, some retreats, and Thrive Unleashed coming up. What are some of the practices or things that have helped you made that shift?
Well, one of my biggest practices is a morning practice. And a morning practice does not have to be a big thing. I mean, so many people think, oh, I have to get up an hour earlier and meditate and exercise and do all the things. Some days my morning practice is just making my bed and doing a meditation on the Insight Timer app that maybe is less than a minute. It doesn't have to be long. Those are the two things that I do non-negotiably, my non-negotiables. I also sometimes say an affirmation, do a power pose, spray some aromatherapy spray, things that help me take a moment at the beginning of my day to start it on my terms and be intentional and think about what I'm trying to accomplish, not in a task-oriented way, but in a purpose-oriented way. So that's one of my biggest tools.
Yeah. What do you think has helped you build that consistency?
I think the accountability of Thrive Circle has been huge. I'm an obliger in Gretchen Rubin 4 tendency terms, and I tend to do better when I've got outside accountability. And I've been in all 3 Thrive Circles this year. So almost every Tuesday night, we would meet, we would share what we've been doing, we would support each other, and having that consistent support and opportunities to talk about what we're doing has been great in keeping me on track. Um, and the thing that surprised me about those, I'm an introvert, and I've said to you, I think at one point, I am not a group person. At the end of February, right before the pandemic, we had an in-person retreat that was focused on clutter, and I loved the whole agenda for that retreat, but I was really nervous about going and being in this group. I had some great breakthroughs at that retreat. One of the biggest ones was that the physical clutter wasn't my biggest barrier. It was the mental clutter, the stories that I'm telling myself, like there's not enough time and I'm not enough. And I think it was being in that group dynamic that really helped me to have some of those breakthroughs. It was a different dynamic for me outside of my comfort zone, but a good one. And that was part of what gave me the courage to join Thrive Circle, because again, fake stories in my head, oh, I'm not a group person, but I loved being in a group, and it helped me think about things differently. And I think one of the greatest things is seeing myself through other people's eyes, because I am very hard on myself. And I got an email from one of the women in the group that, it just, the way that she saw me, it just really touched my heart and helps me to see myself through other people's eyes, which has been incredibly powerful.
Yeah, because we tell ourselves stories about what we think people see or notice, right?
Yes.
And so you've now totally outed yourself because I often talk about, I have people tell me that they're not a group person, and now people are like, wait, is that could be?
Mhm.
It's so interesting, right? I think we do have, I just had a conversation today with somebody who said, and for different reasons, right? I think people think they're not a group person for all sorts of different reasons. And so I love that there's this, you've noticed this accountability piece, the learning from one another, and then always also this aspect of getting to see yourself the way other people see you, right? We talk a lot about whose validation are we seeking, right? Is it that external validation and the inward or the inward validation? And yet there is a place of, I think sometimes our inward lens is so, that filter is so off how we see ourselves. So it's important to be able to take in really positive systems of support and how they see us and be like, oh, wait, maybe that could be true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've talked about kind of your progress a little bit. If you were to think about one or two shifts that have come from this work, right? And there are so many layers to this work, but what would one or two of those shifts be on your life, and why are they important? How have they impacted you?
Biggest shift in my life has been my mindset. This time last year, I think I was very much in victim mode. My work is too demanding and it's running my life. And I wanted to blame my job. And at one of the retreats, we were doing a visualization exercise. And I just had a breakthrough and realized that so many of those work thoughts were not coming from my colleagues. They weren't coming from my boss. They were coming from me. And I was telling myself stories about how I had to show up at work, and realizing that has been a huge shift. And it was the most tangible in the work context, but it's helped me in a lot of other ways recognize places where I was saying, I'm a victim, and these are external circumstances that are forcing my life to be this way. And now it's easier and more natural for me to stop and say, wait, is that really true? Is this really the circumstance, or am I telling myself this story? And it's amazing how many times I'm telling myself that story. So I feel like I'm approaching a lot of things in my life with that empowered mindset, as opposed to thinking that I'm a victim of circumstance. So I
Yeah.
think that's been the biggest shift.
I love that example, and I'm going to ask you a question. You're going to be like, oh, So part of that shift, I wonder, is in some of those conversations that you had with yourself, right? Identifying, so that story of, I'm telling this thing about work, the scarcity, and then recognizing what it was you wanted, what it was you were craving from others. And in a lot of those cases, you recognized that and then started giving it to yourself. Would that be true?
Say a little bit more about that.
So, right, there are some circumstances that I can recall where you were craving certain things at work, boundaries or recognition or different things. And when you got clear and named what those were and why they were important to you, and that maybe, you were looking for them from others, but decided to give them to yourself first, then it was interesting because you started to receive it
Mm-hmm.
from those external things. Does
Yeah,
that?
it does make sense. I now realize you were trying to nudge me without sharing personal information. Yes, there were many places at work where I was looking for external recognition, and I realized once I stopped to think about it, for example, I was getting that external recognition. That wasn't what was happening. What I wasn't getting was the internal gold stars and the recognition from myself. And so I kept looking for the wrong thing, and no matter how much external recognition I got, it wasn't going to be enough, because what I really was looking for was my own validation. And I never would have thought that was what I was looking for.
Yeah, right. And then it's that whole, we talk about it a lot, practicing feeling how you want to feel,
Yeah.
right? And giving yourself permission to feel it, because so often it's right in front of us, and yet we're either moving so fast, or we're in that mindset of noticing all the other things that are going wrong, the victim piece, as you said. And so giving it, I mean, I think that's a huge win, right? For a lot of the things that you've experienced. And it's, I think, so prevalent with so many of us, right? We seem to want, whether it's at work or with our families, right? We want to be heard. We want not to be ignored. We, all of those pieces, whatever that statement is. And so I love that in so many of those cases, you tuned in to what was important, and then, noticing it around you and within yourself. Thank you for letting me nudge you a little bit.
Yes.
So you have already said yes and embarked on Thrive Unleashed, which is the new 6-month group that is starting in January. Tell us what you are most excited about in terms of that journey and that next step, and what you're excited about bringing forward.
Sure. Mostly I'm excited to see what happens. And I know that sounds very vague, but one thing I've realized over this journey is what I might think I'm working on is not what ends up happening. And I'm more open to that now. So, I mean, one thing I'm definitely taking forward is the Kim Possibility health experiments and seeing where that goes. And I don't know. So I'm excited to explore that. I'm excited to continue to work with the other women in the group who I formed some really strong bonds with, and just continue to explore and expand and see where I end up. I feel like I'm very close to identifying more of a purpose in my life, going back to that idea of living the width, living the depth, not just living the length. And I'm exploring things to try to hone in on that. And I am really going to focus on that in the next 6 months. And so I'm excited to see what comes out of that. And I'm excited to have another conversation with you in 6 months, right? Let's check in with Kim and see where she is.
Yes.
What will have happened?
Putting it on the calendar now. Yes. I love it. Oh my goodness. Absolutely. So if people wanted to learn more about Kim Possibilities, where might they go?
Well, they can go to kimpossibility.com, and that will for now take you to my blog. And there's a spot in the upper right hand corner on my blog where people can sign up for Kim Possibility health experiments. So far, it's been really fun. I've got a group of people. We've sent out 2 experiments, and it's been rewarding. It's been exciting. Very fun.
And share with everybody just for a second, right? Because I know, but what is it about bringing that forward that felt so important to you?
Well, when I think about what resonates with me as far as purpose, the one thing I've known throughout my whole life is that I want to help other people be healthier. I don't know exactly what that means, and that's part of what we're trying to figure out. But I've read so much, I've worked on so much. I have a lot of tools that have worked for me. And so the idea with Kim Possibility health experiments is it gives me the opportunity to share some of those tools. They're bite-sized, they're tiny, they're small, in a way that could potentially resonate and help other people. And so far, that's what's happening. And my hope is that this will grow into something that is more satisfying for me as far as connecting with other people, helping with other people, and will just, resonate.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. Right. It's been so fun to watch you kind of come into that and explore that. And you've, tapped into a lot of different resources and different programs, right? Even outside of this work. And I think bringing in your running experience and bringing all of that together for you, and tapping into, your core values, your sense of purpose, and allowing it. Because I think we have a really fabulous experiment that you did in terms of allowing that might be a fun way to close this conversation. Because one of the things that is hard for a lot of us is we want to know how something is going to turn out, right? And you, like many, we're all, I mean, I do it too, right? I have a goal, I think I know how I would like it to turn out, but you took on an experiment this fall in terms of around becoming and it being mysterious. Do you want to share about that? The mystery seeds?
Oh, mystery seeds. Yes. So it actually was the end of August that you and I talked about planting mystery seeds and just seeing what grew. And I got a package of like hummingbird seeds, wildflower seeds, planted them and took care of them and nourished them. And it was really amazing. I mean, it was fun to watch them grow. We didn't even know if they were going to grow this fall or if they would stay dormant and not come out until spring. And my husband was like, don't expect too much because he didn't want me to be disappointed. Um, I had beautiful yellow flowers the weekend that I launched Kim Possibility. And they were just starting to bud as I was developing the emails to go out. It was so exciting. And actually, I don't know if you can see behind me, there's like a little planter. We made that planter during our Spark Hope retreat. And it's winter, so my seeds are outside and they are starting to go dormant for the winter, which I know does not mean that Kim Possibility is going dormant, but I thought, well, I want to have some inside seeds. So last week, maybe not even a week ago, I planted some more of those butterfly and hummingbird seeds. You didn't even know this. Seeds in that planter, and as I was cleaning up the mess I had back there before we went live, I realized they had sprouted, and I have little green sprouts in that planter back there from new seeds, new mystery seeds. So to me, it just represents having possibilities, nourishing them, allowing them to flourish, not knowing what's going to be there, and just trusting that whatever happens is going to be the right thing.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim, for sharing that. It was so much fun to watch that. And you get so excited about all the different stages of that and just the allowing of it all, which I can talk about until I'm blue in the face, and I can practice until I'm blue in the face because sometimes I have to, like, right? Everyone thinks, oh, Elena's got to figure. No. There's still a lot of practicing over here that happens, and that's the point of it all, right? And I think those little experiments, those practices, when we can make them so concrete and tangible, are really nice reminders. So, last question. If somebody is watching this and is like, all right, I feel like maybe there's something for me to explore here, what would you offer them? What tip in terms of, getting started or taking the leap or being curious, what would you want somebody that was maybe just on the cusp of thinking of, hey, maybe there's a journey for me to explore? What would you want them to know?
I would tell them to explore. And the best way to do that is to just think of a tiny step that can move you in the direction of whatever it is you want to explore, right? I mean, it could be reaching out to you for a discovery call. It could be signing up for Kim Possibility. It could be thinking about something that is interesting and Googling it on the internet. I think that we let things be overwhelming, and just being able to say, this is something I want to learn more about. I don't have any expectations, and just identifying a tiny little step to move you in that direction. What we do every day has more effect than what we do once in a while. So doing something tiny every day to move in a direction of something that somebody wants to explore will get you to places that you never imagined or anticipated.
Thank you, Kim. So if you have questions for me, post them, right? If you're looking at this on Facebook, post them in the comments. If you're looking at this somewhere else, hit reply and email. I will share Kim's contact information for Kim Possibilities and her blog, so you can learn more about that too. But my hope is that by watching this, there's a bit of a glimpse and demystifying what what this particular thriving journey can look like, right? In one set of experiences, because everybody's experience is a little bit different and everybody comes to it with a different lens and different filters. And just knowing that, a lot of this is about allowing and the practices and the mindset and really showing up for yourself as you've done, Kim, so beautifully and inspired so many along the way. I'm just a guide. I get to sit back and watch things happen when I ask a question or offer a nudge. And sometimes some of you wish I offered more specific nudges, but it seems to work out just fine when I do. So thank you for sharing today, Kim. I'm so, so grateful.
Thank you. I'm happy to do
So
it, and I'm grateful for everything that you've helped guide me through over this last year and everything that you will help guide me through next year.
thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I stopped the live stream.